Monomold shells are notoriously weak along the edges. This is where they are most likely to begin breaking apart, if they are going to break apart somewhere. The edges is where we'll find a little crack, and then later we'll find the monomold slowly tearing itself apart through repeated use outwards from this crack. We want a monomold that is strong and made to be used over and over again, of course, so we have to make a wall along the edge to reinforce the piece. The wall along the edge serves the purpose of making sure the edge of the mold is sturdy, that we can use screwdrivers, for example, to pry the monomold off without needing to worry about chipping and cracking the mold. It also serves the purpose of stiffening up the monomold shell considerably. Hydroresin monomolds can bend, and the thinner they are, the more susceptible they are to this behavior. The mold bending is bad because it might not bend back exactly the same way, and this is how we'll get misregistration. The wall along the edge really helps stop this from happening, as it creates a strong ridge of thick material which stiffens up the entire construction. We get a strong piece, but without needing to make the entire monomold super thick and heavy. So what should this wall look like? In order to make the wall as strong as it needs to be, we want it to be parallel with the top of the silicone wall, the same height essentially. This ensures the wall has a shape like this, a square, and not one like this, a triangle. The top of the wall being a square makes it much stronger and less likely to begin chipping and cracking off. A triangular wall will be much more likely to have the top of it chip off when pressure is being applied to it. The wall should, once extended out from the silicone at the same height, at about the same thickness of a normal finger, head down to the monomold shell at a 90-degree angle. This ensures the wall is of even thickness and strength the entire way down. If the wall slopes inwards, we are making a wall that has the potential to crack and break at the bottom where it meets the monomold shell because it's thinner there and stronger at the top. If we have a wall that slopes outwards, we end up with a wall that weighs more than it needs to. It's also much more difficult to apply even pressure downwards to close the mold with a wall that slopes outwards. So we want one that's at 90 degrees to the top of the silicone wall. The construction of the wall is very straightforward and pretty easy to do, though it does require a little bit of getting used to. We mix up a batch of resin that's fairly thick, so thick that we can sculpt with it. We don't want resin that doesn't want to stay where we put it. Getting the material to this thickness takes a bit of practice, but once you've tested out a few different mixes, you should be good to go. Hydroresin, unlike plaster, can be mixed thicker right from the start. You don't need to mix a normal bowl and then wait for the material to thicken up before you begin, like you need to do with plaster. If the mix is too thin, you can add more powder. If it's too thick, you add more liquid. Keep doing this until you find a mix that you can sculpt with. Unlike plaster, you can mix back and forth with hydroresin, so it's much more flexible. Even when mixed really thick, the set time is around 20 to 30 minutes, so you'll have plenty of time to work and build your walls. My technique for building walls is nothing special. I like to attempt to set the height of the wall first by adding a lot of material and making it the same height as the silicone wall. Since I kept my silicone wall so nice and clean this entire time, I can use it to reference the height of by simply matching my tool to the height of it, sliding my tool across it. Once this face of the wall is at the correct height and looks nice and even and smooth, I move on to making sure the face that meets with the mother mold shell is equally as nice and even, and that we have that 90-degree angle. What often happens here is that people do one but not the other, thinking that they can easily go back later and fill in the holes. However, this is a perfect recipe for having a wall filled with air bubbles, which is of course a wall that's really weak. I would strongly suggest doing one section of the wall on both faces before moving on to the next section. You'll see me here working one face of the wall first and then instantly moving to the other face, cleaning it up and making the wall nice and even, and with that 90-degree angle.